Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. It is episode 7 of the Dropkicks and Attractions podcast. I am, of course, the Prince of Pop Culture, the knave of nostalgia, the Nick and Poop of nostalgia. I'll work on that one. Xander Invictus, joined by my close personal friend, Big Bach. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Xander. Are you doing okay, too?
I'm doing okay. We'll survive. You know how real life is. All right. We are, of course, covering the wrestling from the week of May 10th, 1993. Getting close. We're about a month away from King of the Ring, the first ever pay-per-view King of the Ring, and we are a week out. 2 episodes for us, but a week out in time of Slamboree.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, wrestling was we'll get into that later. But yeah, let's just say WCW Saturday Night, the last 20 minutes saved that show.
Agreed.
Yeah, so we are going into the attractions part of it, the concession stand. And I actually watched something that wasn't YouTube for the first time in 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I got bored, and because we've discussed many times on the show, one of my comfort genres are police procedurals.
Mm-hmm.
So I was flipping around on Tubi, hashtag I love Tubi, just to see TV shows, just to have something to watch different. Not something I'm going to do reports or episodes on, just off channel. And I found a Canadian procedural called King.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, it's only got 2 seasons. It's not bad. It's actually a female. She was sent down to one of the drag departments, answering phones after some, from what it at least seems on the first couple episodes, somebody got handsy. She, gave him a what for. Now she's paying the price because they outranked her. But anyways, what it is she gets picked to run this department. It's a Canadian, so far I don't see any differences between American and Canadian procedurals. It's this department where basically the cases that other departments can't solve, they solve.
Gotcha.
I only got into 2 episodes of it so far, and there was one where it was a combination of a vice and organized crime type departments. They were arguing with each other, so the chief or whoever the guy was all right, you know what? You guys solve it.
Yeah, I'm following you.
Yeah, and it's it's one of those, if you see, it's nothing groundbreaking or huge. It's just one of those, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. It's just, I like it. So far, it's 2 episodes in. Like I said, there's only 2 seasons, so I'm not, it's not like I got to worry about Law & Order SVU where there's 25.
Right.
And I'm also been of the fact that this is a weird one that, somebody like me who's seen 20-some-odd seasons of Law & Order, and it's been on for over 30 years. The original one was I want to say 88, 89 was the original one.
Right.
Grey's Anatomy just hit 20 seasons.
That's still going? I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's still going. I think this is its 20th season or the next season's going to be its 20th season.
Okay.
And Supernatural was 15. I've always been the aspect that if you shows don't need to be 15, 20 seasons. If you can tell the story in 4 and everything's told, and you prevents it from retreading, tell it in 4.
Agreed.
I know, I've seen a lot of, BBC shows do that, where it's hey, we can tell this whole series in 4 or 5 seasons. But it's if it's popular, people are oh yeah, if it's popular, we're going to keep it going for 15, and you just end up rehashing everything.
Yeah, I think Sherlock was 4 or 5 British series.
Yeah, and it was 4 or 5 episodes each.
Right.
I saw the first season. I liked it. It was the first, and each episode was an hour and a half, almost a full-length movie.
Yeah.
Law & Order, like I said, I love Law & Order SVU, but you can only have, after 20, they're closing in on 25 seasons, or they're at 25 seasons. There's only so many episodes you can talk about, sex offenders and kitty diddlers.
Yeah, there's only so many stories you can tell.
Yeah. I mean, each one's at their own little ring, but it's just I get it. New York's a cesspool of evil people. But anyways, like I said, I watched that. I'm going to try to watch. I'm trying to give myself on my days off from work when I do have free time to just sit and watch and veg.
I know the feeling.
So, and then YouTube-wise, once again, Eric the Electric, are you surprised?
No, I'm not.
No, and the one that's sticking out this week was, speaking of, procedurals and everything, he did, the most calorie-dense last meal, Death Row gets, one last meal.
Yeah, gotcha.
He did that one. And, he does this thing where he gives himself time limits, and if he doesn't complete the time limit, he adds more food.
Right, yeah, you've talked about that.
Yeah, and what he did with this one was, that he spun a wheel and there was more last meals, and he had to add that on to everything he had to eat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then the other one I remember watching, because I watch his new ones, and then, I'm always getting recommended his older ones, so it's nice to go back and watch the new and the old. He did an episode where he had breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert, where he had to eat, he had a dartboard, he just threw, there was different foods or whatever, and instead of one serving, he ate 10 servings of each.
Holy crap.
Yeah. That's what I've been watching offline. What about you?
I'm getting back into the older Atop the Fourth Wall, the comic review show by Linkara. Used to be on Channel Awesome.
Yeah, I used to watch that.
I'm in 2013 right now for his show, and fortunately he has playlists for each year instead of just one big one, so that's really helpful for finding specific episodes.
Sure.
Yeah, he also has the storyline to the show where he plays almost every character, and it's really funny.
Yeah, I remember those. I haven't watched him in many years, but I do remember him doing those.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun. Yeah, otherwise, I actually haven't been watching much. I picked up Metroid Dread, and I've been playing it on my Switch, and it's amazing.
Oh, nice. You been watching any more anime? You getting your weeb fix anymore?
Not really, just kind of stalled on that. I've got a bunch I want to watch again. I just haven't gotten there. Yeah, not a whole lot this in the simulcast season that really caught my eye.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's get into Tubi or not Tubi. Why don't you go ahead and I will acquiesce to you. Talk about go ahead and tell everybody what movie you spun.
The movie spun for me was Smurfs: The Lost Village, which surprisingly was actually rated PG. That caught me off guard. I mean, it's a soft PG. It could have been G pretty easily, I think. But it was actually a lot of fun. I was really surprised. It's mostly like kind of coming of age, finding your place, your purpose, that kind of thing. One of Sony's animation studios did it. It's a CG movie. I'm not really good at judging things like cinematography and such. That's why I didn't mention it much when I talked about Attack the Block.
Sure.
But it looked believable, even though it was Smurfs, you know?
Yeah. So, what's some good things you liked about it, like the good and the bad about it?
Well, like I said, the characters looked believable. There was a decent, maybe not drama, but there were good character interactions.
Okay.
Like, you understood why Smurfette's mostly the main character. Yeah, it's kind of about her finding her place.
Oh, okay. Fun fact, I don't know if you know about this, because Smurfs was a big thing I was as a kid. Smurfette's not a real Smurf. And
actually, that's a plot point throughout the movie. She's a golem, basically, created by Gargamel.
Oh, yeah, okay, so yeah, that was actually a big part of the TV show, so it's nice that they actually keep that canon with these movies. I thought that's nice.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed when I was watching the credits to see if there was a post-credit scene go like this, Gargamel's voiced by Rainn Wilson.
Oh, nice. Okay. You know what? I can see that.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the voice because I've never really gotten into The Office, but...
Sure.
Yeah, I just thought that was a neat little bit.
Sure, and you're going to go ahead and... have we convinced you to open up your Letterboxd yet?
I have opened it up, I just haven't touched it yet.
Okay, so there you go. There's the first movie you can put up on Letterboxd.
Yep.
So, using their scale of... 1 to 5 stars, or 0 to 5 stars rather, going by halves, what would you give this?
I'd give it a 4.
Okay, and obviously you liked it. Would you recommend it?
I think I would.
Okay.
It's kind of surprising for a 38-year-old man to be recommending a Smurfs movie, but it works.
Hey, if it works, it works. It's nice nowadays where it's not as weird to people watching animated movies and cartoons and stuff, because, there was over that mystique when we were growing up.
Yeah, the influx of anime from Japan since the 90s has been a big part of that.
Sure. And that was one of the reasons I had Disney Plus, was not only Marvel, was so I can watch Darkwing Duck and Gargoyles, and they also have every season of The Simpsons, too.
Yeah, Disney did so many good original series in the 90s.
Sure. Speaking of which, as much as Disney, this is actually a nice accidental segue, Disney does, I think they do, for the most part, very well with their animated movies.
Agreed.
Their live-action movies, not so much. Their live-action movies can be very hit or miss.
Yeah, I can absolutely see why you're saying that.
Sure, and that goes into the movie I rolled last week, which was My Favorite Martian, which came out in 1999, so about a year or so before I graduated high school. And you know what? This was one of those it works. Like I said, I just finished a watch recording. I remember watching this at least once before. I liked it, and you know what? I think I like it better.
Good deal.
So basically, what it was is there was a show, I want to say 62, 63, called My Favorite Martian, and basically, alien crash lands on Earth, wacky hijinks ensues with a normal guy. They have to hide he's an alien. Wacky hijinks ensue, and that's exactly what this movie is. And the cast is stacked. You got Christopher Lloyd plays the Martian. Jeff Daniels plays the down on his luck guy that runs into the alien. He's a TV producer.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth Hurley's in this movie. Daryl Hannah's in the movie. Wallace Shawn, we know from we did an episode a long time ago on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He was in an episode. He played one of the Ferengis. He was also in The Princess Bride. You had Ray Walston, who was in it, who recognize as Mr. Hand from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I remember watching him as the judge from that TV show Picket Fences my parents watched a lot. Which is nice because he actually played the alien on the TV show.
Oh, cool.
And then the suit that Christopher Lloyd's character wears is sentient. It talks, it's sentient, it does its own thing. Uncredited, Wayne Knight does the voice for it because it talks too.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the cast is stacked. And I think what saves this from just being a garbage, like in the 90s, they were making movies of all kinds of TV shows, like The Little Rascals had a movie, Leave It to Beaver had a movie, Dennis the Menace had more than one movie. This was there was a thing back in the 90s where they were doing like old TV shows as new movies.
Yeah, I've seen more than one of those that get just named.
Yeah, I've seen the first Dennis the Menace, where actually Christopher Lloyd played the bad guy in that movie.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. And then the Brady Bunch had a couple movies, but and I think if it wasn't for this cast, you can tell the cast was having fun with it too, because you always tell. You can tell that if it wasn't for this cast, this movie would not have been as fun as a watch as it was.
Gotcha.
Because there's a lot of sight gags and puns, a little bit of slapstick.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I look at it this way, is this movie 100% full of tropes?
Sounds like it is.
Is this movie 100% predictable?
Sounds like it.
Do you see the twist coming a mile away?
Yes, absolutely it sure sounds.
Is this movie a joy to watch? Absolutely it sounds like. Yeah, everything, you see everything coming a mile away. Even if you haven't seen it before like I have, you know everything, You're getting all the points for a movie like this. You're hitting every single bullet point.
Right.
And this movie's absolutely harmless. It's fun to watch. It's one you can watch with your kids. And it's one of those, it's those movies where you're flipping through weekend TV and it just pops up somewhere. It's pure comfort food movie.
Yeah, and tropes become tropes because they work, so...
Yeah, and this is is this movie breaking any new grounds? Is it innovative? Is it No, and it's extremely dated. You can tell this was a late 90s movie.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it almost seems like that it's the different character, but, it seems like, could this be canon with the TV show? Maybe. It seems like it without giving away any secrets. Could it be? Possibly. And it's one of those, how a lot of these movies opens itself up as we're going to leave the door open for a sequel, or maybe this could be the backdoor pilot for a TV show.
Right.
Knowing that this movie, let's put it this way, its budget was $65 million, it made a total box office of 36.
Oof.
You weren't getting a sequel. But, does all the bad guys get the comeuppance? Does the guy get the girl at the end? And does it all goof? Yes, but it works. If you're looking for something harmless to watch, fun to watch, goofy, like you said, if you like sight gags, puns, a little bit of slapstick, you're going to enjoy this.
Sounds like I might enjoy it.
Yeah, and unlike last week where I liked the movie but I couldn't recommend it, I do like this movie. I 100% recommend it.
Good deal.
Yeah, I would give this 3.5 on the Letterboxd scale. Once again, recommend it 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I think we're both 2 for 2 on recommended movie. Well, 2 for 2 movies we like, rather.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go ahead and spin for next week.
Alrighty.
Bach will go to you, sir. We'll go ahead and spin the genre. Which genre would you like this week?
Sword and sorcery is what I'm feeling again.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Oh well.
Okay. Based on true events.
Ooh. I like a good true story.
Yeah. If you know anything about movies, that means absolutely nothing in this movie happened in real life.
Right. It's exaggerated.
See Patch Adams. Read that story.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not the movie you got. I'm just saying. You got 14, by the way. No, the real life Patch Adams does not like,
the movie.
the movie.
Okay.
So we got 14, so 3, so we got 12. Oh, I am jealous.
Alrighty, what have you got for me?
One, it's a movie I've seen before and I enjoy, and this movie is 100% out of your wheelhouse. It is a crime action drama movie called, and I've seen it before, so I know this is good. It's called Dead Presidents.
The name sounds familiar.
It came out in 95, and I remember seeing the commercials on TV, and I have seen this movie before. It's directed by the Hughes brothers. It's got Lorenz Tate, Keith David, Chris Tucker, early Terrence Howard.
I recognize some of those names.
Yeah, and like, it's one of the... I rather enjoy this movie, but I don't know if you would because it's not your style, but that's what the segment's for. Basically, the synopsis is a Vietnam War veteran returns home and is drawn into a life of crime when he pulls off a daring armored car robbery with a group of fellow vets.
Oh my.
This is a great movie.
Looking forward to giving it a try.
Once again, 2 out of the 3 weeks. 2 out of the 3 weeks, I'm jealous.
Happens like that sometimes.
Yeah. But once again, it's my style of movie, not necessarily yours.
Right.
So, we'll see. Once again, because you never know. We will spin my genre. Score!
What you got?
Your boy got action.
Ooh.
One of my preferred genres.
And I'm going to guess real quick you're going to roll a 12.
No, I rolled a 30.
Oh, okay.
6. 6 times 5 is 30, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I got an anime.
Oh, really?
And I got the third one. It is called Project A-KO3.
I am not familiar with that.
Cinderella Rhapsody. Now, one thing, it's only 45 minutes, which is nice. It is the romantic rivalries between 2 teenage schoolgirls get out of hand when a handsome fellow appears and has eyes for another.
Oh my.
It's from 1988, and apparently there's 3. This is at least the third one. So I'm going number 3 into the series.
Oh, that could be confusing.
It could be. We'll see what happens. This is funny. You like your animes, and I got one. I like really good action crime dramas, and you got that.
Alrighty. Looking forward to giving it a try.
We will go ahead and put the trailers up on Twitter this week. And like I said, these are both on Tubi, so you guys can join us, and we'll discuss them next week.
Alrighty.
All right, shall we get into the wrestling, sir?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get into the wrestling. And they were both very short. They were both like hour-long episodes.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead into Monday Night Raw, May 10th of 93. And show opens outside, actually. Shawn Michaels is being interviewed outside by Bobby Heenan, talking about he's got the lumberjack match later tonight. He's got the problem with Mr. Perfect. Speaking of, actually, he's talking about Hacksaw. He gets attacked by Mr. Perfect, and they brawl all over this car that just happens to coincidentally just be parked in the middle of the Manhattan Center.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's just obviously they're going to damage it. They crack the windshield. There's dents in it.
Yeah, it was a fight there.
Yeah, they end up causing $3,300 worth of damage. Do you know why I know that number?
Why do you know that number?
Because that was Howard Finkel's car.
Oh.
They caused $3,000 worth of damage on Howard Finkel's car.
Oh my gosh.
Like, whether it was a rental car or it was his own personal car, that was Howard Finkel's car that they destroyed. Yeah. We go to ringside where we get Vince, Macho Man, Bobby Heenan open the show. And I like how Bobby Heenan's accusing Jim Duggan of being the one who paid Mr. Perfect to attack HBK.
Because of course he'd accuse him of that.
Of course, it's like I said, this is Bobby Heenan at his best.
Right, heel psychology.
Yeah, of course. We get into the first match, which is one of 2 of our bigger matches of the show, surprisingly for an hour. It's the first King of the Ring qualifying match we've had on Raw. It is Bam Bam Bigelow versus one half of the Natural Disasters, Typhoon, the former tugboat.
Yeah, they're both enormous. If this was modern WWE, I would have been expecting a double impact causes the ring to collapse.
Yeah. Because these guys were just plowing into each other. Neither one of them was moving for the other.
Yeah, they were just trading shoulder tackles back and forth. Kind of funny.
Yeah. It was just nice to see that, neither man's small by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, they're both 350 plus, I think.
Yeah, easily. Until they don't move until Typhoon body slams Bigelow, who gets up and even slams Typhoon. So these guys are able to each pick up each other, which is always impressive.
So yeah, they're not just big; they're built too.
Yeah, and even crazier. This is how it shows you just how strong Bigelow was, who back suplexed Typhoon and did not have any struggles with it.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a really impressive spot.
Yeah. They go to commercial, we come back, Typhoon's firmly in control until probably one of the most impressive spots of our whole episode, both shows. Bam Bam Bigelow was able to hoist him up and land a Samoan drop on Typhoon.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh.
And then he quickly hits the top rope headbutt, and he gets the win. Basically, as soon as the commercials come back from commercial, he hits the headbutt for the win.
It was a little disappointing how quickly it ended after coming back, but it was a good ending for a 5-minute, 29-second match.
Yeah, I like this. This is, you know me, anytime you get two big men that aren't just plotting, just slow and plotting, you get guys that can move and do some moves. I like stuff like this.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, this was right up my wheelhouse. We get a vignette of the Smoking Guns' arrival. It basically looked like all the vignettes put together. They're gonna make their tag team debut on Mania this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, that's the Saturday morning show.
It was I think it was Saturday morning. Yeah, they had a couple. They had 2 or 3 over the weekend. So yeah, so that means we're gonna see him here on Raw here probably in the next few weeks, I imagine.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too, because I actually, from what I've seen, I enjoyed watching the Smoking Guns, what little I have seen.
Mm-hmm.
We go into our next match, which is Yokozuna, who comes out with Mr. Fuji, versus PJ Walker, who we discussed him way back earlier. He's been on the show before. We're going to see him later on as Aldo Montoya, the Portuguese Man-O-War.
Mm-hmm.
He's known more as ECW legend Just Incredible.
Gotcha. I had forgotten that.
Once again, I knew exactly what we're going to get. We had beautiful belly-to-belly by Yokozuna.
Yeah, that was really good.
I know this is going to be quick. You know, we're bringing him back up because we know he has the match with Hulk at King of the Ring. You know, quick, couple blows, couple slams, bonsai drop for the win.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and there were some nice sounding chops in there too.
Oh yeah, but we knew that, especially since we're getting close to the King of the Ring, we're about a month out. You're not gonna get an enhancement talent going toe to toe with Yokozuna.
Right.
Speaking of King of the Ring, we get Mean Gene with the King of the Ring report. They've already announced the people that have qualified for the pay-per-view are Bret Hart, Lex Luger, Razor Ramon, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and then just tonight, Bam Bam Bigelow has qualified. And then this weekend, they say that we are getting the Mr. Perfect Doink rematch. And then probably one of the biggest mismatches of the whole tournament, as of right now, Tatanka versus Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to expect out of that.
We will see, because once again, we're about a month out, so we're going to finish up the qualifying matches here. And then we get into our next match, Mr. Perfect versus Iron Mike Sharp, who I realized Iron Mike Sharp, he had a little bit of a spell early on. Like, I didn't realize he had been in WWE since '83 at this point.
That long? Wow.
Yeah. When he first came in, he debuted, and he was actually able to get a world title shot, like, relatively in the beginning of his run. And then after that, he was basically enhancement talent the rest of the time he was in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew he had been there forever. I didn't realize he had been there that long.
I gotcha.
And the one thing you're going to notice right off the bat, once again, it's Mr. Perfect. You know me, I love me some Mr. Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing you don't notice from Mike Sharp is the grunts. Even far away, you could hear every grunt. Every time he moved, ah, ugh, ah.
And now that you mentioned it, it's kind of processing, you know?
Yeah, now every time you see Iron Mike Sharp, you can hear, trust me, you know when he's in the ring, because that's all you hear.
Gotcha.
And I noticed the majority of the match, all he really did was irates. He did a lot of irates in this match.
Sure did.
Yep, and then we get the spot that you and I both loved last week, Bobby Heenan with the TV spot.
Yeah, that was great again.
We had a couple of scrambled porn references. There was even a Debbie Does Dallas reference, one of the most famous pornos of all time.
I have never seen it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. But it was like, there's this woman, she did the business down in Dallas. And I'm like, I know that movie. There was a sequel. Okay, but basically, it was relatively back and forth. Mr. Perfect does hit the perfect plex for the win.
Yeah, that took 4 minutes and 41 seconds. And backtracking for just a sec, there was a neat spot where Iron Mike was holding the ropes on the apron, and Perfect used him to slingshot him into the ring. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's a cool spot. You see that every so often. I always thought that spot was cool. But yeah, once again, not a bad match. Iron Mike knew what he was doing.
Yeah, definitely a solid match is the way I'd say it.
Sure, it's very solid. We get our next match, the penultimate match of Raw, Mr. Hughes versus the Cannonball Kid, who we know as the Kamikaze Kid last week, Sean Waltman. And we will see what happens with him next week, because there is a very famous moment next week.
Interesting.
Uh-huh. Once again, when in hindsight, once you realize what happens in hindsight, you've seen this coming a few weeks out. But this week he's known as the Cannonball Kid, and they do acknowledge that he was the Kamikaze Kid last week. Now he's the Cannonball Kid. And I love that while they're doing the intros, they're coming back from the commercial and doing the intros, Bobby's on the ring apron trying to get the ring girl's number.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah. And then we also noticed another big development. Mr. Hughes has a manager now.
Yeah, Harvey Whippleman's coming out with him.
Who is right now also has Giant Gonzalez in his employ. So he has both Mr. Hughes and Giant Gonzalez. So some pretty beefy dudes in his group. But yeah, this was all Mr. Hughes. At one point, he picked up the Cannonball Kid by his ears.
Yeah, I saw that spot. That looked incredibly painful.
Yeah. Threw him in the buckle, and I noticed in the note that he hit that buckle like a cannonball.
Ha ha ha.
But yeah, this is a quick match where Mr. Hughes hit that side slam he hit before for the win.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Again, this wasn't bad.
No. And then we're going to see the payoff, kind of like, quote-unquote payoff, but we'll see what happens next week with the Cannonball Kamikaze 1, 2, 3 Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then this match, which actually had 2 commercial breaks, which I think is the first time that's happened on Raw, at least.
I think you're right.
Yeah, is we get, for the IC title, a rematch from last week, it is Shawn Michaels defending against Hacksaw Jim Duggan in a lumberjack match. And I had to pause it a couple times and get some different shots, but I have figured out every single lumberjack.
Oh, cool.
And all of them but one did come out in flannels.
Mm-hmm.
We had Typhoon.
Okay.
Terry Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hughes, who wore his flannel over his shirt and tie. Yokozuna, who was the only one that didn't wear a flannel.
Right.
Tatanka. Mr. Perfect. Bam Bam. And Bob Backlund.
Oh, pretty stacked lumberjack cast.
Yeah, and then you noticed there was 2 heels on one side, 2 faces on another, then you had 2 faces on one side, and then just Yokozuna on the other. And, there's a lot of history in here. We got the rematch from last week between Shawn and Hacksaw. You got the beef going on with Perfect and Michaels. They announced the history between Hacksaw and Yokozuna, which does come into the finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed because Duggan comes out first, and what he does is he comes out, gets a couple cheap shots on Yokozuna because we've established the history that these guys have, so, they don't gloss over that. But, however, unfortunately, Shawn Michaels comes out on crutches.
Yeah, he got the shit whooped out of him earlier.
Yeah, and here, when you talk about unlocked memories, you also see the shirt Shawn Michaels wore, which is funny because you had the Ultimate Warrior, who wasn't there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Rockers, who were not a team on the shirt anymore. Like, all these different wrestlers. I remember this shirt specifically because a friend of mine in elementary school had this shirt.
That's a long time back.
Yeah, and it's not like I think about the kid, that often, but it's just the fact that I remember specifically that this kid had this shirt when we were in elementary school.
Yeah, I have memories come up in that same matter a lot because of being autistic.
Yeah, but it was just like, oh, I remember he had that.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, so Shawn comes out and he's like, oh, I'm hurt because the attack, all of that. Mr. Perfect, he attacked me. I can't, So he's in the ring and he comes out and then Perfect attacks him and then by Saints and Begorra, Shawn Michaels is magically healed.
Yeah, he's very clearly fine.
Yes, but it's just, you see how quickly he heals. So, right off the bat, this match is like 90% Hacksaw.
Yeah, he's dominating most of this match.
Yeah, so he throws right off the jump. Hacksaw throws him back out just so how Perfect can throw him back in. We're just throwing him back and forth. Beating him pillar to post and locks in a high bear hug where he's actually lifted Shawn off the ground.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Yeah. And then we get more of it. Hacksaw had him tight in the ropes, which is the spot Andre the Giant used to like doing, where the top and the middle ropes are kind of twisted, so his hands are tied up, so he can't move.
Mm-hmm.
HBK tries to leave, but Perfect and Backlund are like, nope, they carry him back in there as we go to our first commercial. So anyway, okay, so we're back from commercial. And then Hacksaw's still in control. Like, he has not given up control the whole match until he misses the knee drop.
Yeah, that's a turning point, and Sean's able to start getting some offense in.
Yeah, because he took off his boot and just started beating him with it.
Yeah, there was kind of a ref bump. The ref got knocked back, but not out.
Yeah. But Hacksaw got back into control quickly, but he's on a bad wheel because Sean was focusing on his leg. Plus, he missed the knee drop. And he actually does hit the three-point stance clothesline, but Sean rolls out of the ring. We actually go back to the second commercial. We're back from the second commercial, like, almost, it was not even more than a minute or two before we go back to commercial.
Yeah, it was very quick.
So we come back. Sean's fully in control for this. And then we go to the finish. Bam Bam gets on the apron to distract the ref, which causes Sean to hit Hacksaw from behind, who throws him out to Yoko, who actually hits him with a gnarly leg drop on the floor.
Yeah, that looked painful.
Sean goes for the good old, 1 foot on the chest for the pin, where Perfect attack him, and we get a disqualification after that.
That was a frustrating ending to 13 minutes and 14 seconds of a great match.
See, this is where I'm going to respectfully disagree. I didn't mind the ending, because we still got a really good match. Both this match and last match were good for last week. We continued the rivalry, the short rivalry between Hacksaw and Yoko. We're hitting that history. We're still working on the current feud between Perfect and Sean. Like, I think it worked.
Yeah, I agree it was a good way to keep the belt on Sean. I just didn't care for it.
Fair. And then if all hell breaks loose as all the Lumberjacks brawl in the ring. And the weirdest part about this is you had all the Lumberjacks come in. They're all different fighting, feuding with each other. Why the fuck did Iron Mike Sharp come out?
Good question. I didn't catch that.
Iron Mike Sharp was out there at the end when they were shutting down the show. Why? That made no sense to me. Overall, pretty solid show, honestly.
Yeah, solid. I'd call this a B, maybe a B plus.
B minus, C plus for me. I mean, I thought the Lumberjack match was my favorite, with Bam Bam and Typhoon as a close second.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that. 1A, 1B for Raw.
Sure. All right, then we're gonna hop into WCW Saturday Night, May 15, 93. We are 1 week out from Slamboree. We're gonna have, so basically for us, for those that don't know, pay-per-views get their own episode. So we're gonna have one more week of Raw's WCW Saturday Night, which is going to be the go-home show for Slamboree. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to have a show that's just Slamboree.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So we go right into Max Payne versus I have no fucking clue.
No, he wasn't named.
No, and this is not the first time they do this tonight. And you know me, I have to know who everybody is, right?
Right.
So I looked it up. Nobody knows. I could not find anywhere on the internet because it was always like Max Payne versus Jobber, Max Payne versus question mark, Max Payne versus somebody. I could not find a name for this guy.
Really?
Uh-huh. And this is not the first time this is an hour-long show, and this is not the only time they do this tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it was Max Payne comes in, power slam, painkiller for the win.
Yep, 53 seconds, not even a minute.
Yeah, no, this is a nothing match. So, we go to Tony, to the interview area, who brings up the British Bulldog. He's just basically reiterating a lot of the same talking points about his match with Vader next week at Slamboree.
Right, Vader keeps hurting people.
Yeah. Once again, he's basically reiterating, it's kind of like we've heard the same interview from him about 4 times. We already know it's nothing new. Not a bad promo, but once again, you're just saying the same things.
Right, rehashing.
Yeah. So we come back from commercial, Tony and because Larry Zbyszko was talking about, is there because Jesse's still filming Demolition Man, so he'll be back. I think he'll be back for Slamboree. So they talk about what happened at WCW Worldwide. We're getting that U.S. title feud between Dustin Rhodes and Rick Rude. They had a match on Worldwide where both men's shoulders are on the mat for a 3 count, but right there at the last second, they both put their shoulders up, because you could see it from 2 separate camera angles. One angle, you saw Rhodes bring his shoulder up before the 3, and then the other angle, you saw Rude bring his shoulder up before the 3.
Right, but Rude was declared the winner for some reason.
He wasn't declared the winner, but there was no definitive winner because they did show that both shoulders were up. So it's basically mired in controversy, no contest, all this stuff.
Right.
So technically, Dustin is still the U.S. champion, but Rude has control of the title.
Right.
So we go into our one of the tag matches. Matter of fact, it's the only tag match because there's only 4 matches on the show. The Cold Twins versus the Blackhearts. Fair point from Larry, because once again, we know Larry's a Hall of Famer. He was the last AWA World Champion. He's, He feuded with Bruno Sammartino at one point. So it's a nice point to hear Larry talk about who's the legal man, because we got the two identical twins, we got the Blackhearts with the masks on, so it's a nice little discussion about trying to figure out who the legal man is.
Yeah, definitely a tricky thing to do if you're watching.
Yeah, and then it was a nice wrinkle because both teams were actually using this for their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice insight. However, that's the highlight of this match because absolutely not a damn thing happened.
There's a bit Larry says, the Cole twins do the same thing in the same moves in the same way, so that doesn't help you figure out who's who.
Yeah, because that's another good point too. Where he talks about, yeah, you may have two guys in the same outfits, but one of them might put the pressure in a different position or be in a slightly different position when they land a move. But honestly, Larry's insight was the only thing that happened in this match. Not a damn thing happened.
Yeah, this was just
One of the Blackhearts tossed one of the Coles over the top rope for the DQ because apparently we're still doing that.
Yeah, 4 minutes and 10 seconds.
And it sucked.
Yeah, this was worst match of our episode by far.
Yeah, the Max Payne match was better.
Yeah.
So we go into the Slamboree Control Center. I imagine they're going to do one more final one next week for the day before Slamboree.
Mm-hmm.
All the other matches have been previously announced. However, they announced that you know how I mentioned that Scott Norton mentioned about Sting coming into it, one of his intros for one of his entrances for one of his matches.
Uh-huh.
We have now announced that we are going to get Scott Norton versus Sting, which should be fun to watch.
Yeah, that's going to be a good match.
Yeah. And then, all the other previously mentioned matches. So we noticed that Eric tossed it over to Gordon, who announces we're going to get Grizzly Smith, Barry Owens, Bullet Bob Armstrong, Ole Anderson, and Mr. Wrestling 2 are also going to be making appearances at Slamboree, which is nice. And then we go to a really nice clip of Mr. Wrestling 2 in action, which was nice. I had never really seen him before in action, so this was really cool.
This was my first exposure to him as well, so that was awesome.
Yeah, and I liked just how... One thing I got out of it, because it was a short match against him getting enhancement talent, he was very nimble.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, and then we get at the last second, the breaking news of a tag match. We're going to get Rick Rude and Paul Orndorff versus Dustin Rhodes and Kensuke Sasaki from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be fun, because once again, you got the, I'm not too familiar with Kensuke Sasaki, but I'm a big fan of the other three, so I'm looking forward to that match.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. It's definitely going to be a hell of a thing.
And then we get your favorite wrestler in mine, Van Hammer, cue sarcasm, versus a Muscle Man. The Muscle Man poses, no name.
No name at all.
Nope. And you get this horrendously bad back body drop from Van Hammer. I thought he was going to hurt the guy.
Yeah, that looked like almost like a botch.
Yeah. So as they're doing this, Colonel Parker, who was the best part of this match, brings out a gurney. Van Hammer hits a slingshot suplex finisher, and the match is over.
Yeah, 1 minute, 13 seconds. Nothing happened.
Garbage. I haven't seen a good Van Hammer match since we started this show. Period. And I'm talking about episode 1.
Oh my, I didn't realize you went that far back.
Oh, he was supposed to be in the Thunderdome match on episode 1 for Clash of the Champions. But yeah, it was garbage. So he goes ringside to talk with Van Hammer and Parker, because Colonel Parker brings out a gurney. He's talking about Van Hammer for some reason, like, oh, you're doing that to ridicule Cactus Jack for, I don't know why, because there was nothing mentioned about Cactus Jack at any point.
No.
Okay. And then Parker says, yeah, the gurney's not for Cactus Jack, it's for you, homie. So Van Hammer leaves, just whatever, and then the quality of the promo goes up when Van Hammer leaves. I like how, Colonel Parker is talking about how he goes home and he had himself a mint julep. And I'm like, hey, Southern plantations drink mint juleps still. And apparently Elvis is still alive in 93, because he went to that Elvis.
Yeah.
He specifically said it was that Elvis, so apparently in 93 Elvis was not dead yet. about who the guy he's bringing in. We'll see at Slamboree who Colonel Parker's bringing in, and it's a fun one.
Oh boy.
And no, it's not Elvis. He is not bringing some dude dressed in Elvis. Like, he's bringing a legit dude in.
Okay.
So, and I know where your mind was going. It's like, he's actually bringing in Elvis.
I thought about it for a second.
No, this is legit. He's bringing in somebody, like, legitimately.
Okay.
So, and then we get pre-recorded comments from Thunderbolt Patterson about Slamboree. Like, you know me, I like watching a lot of Jim Crockett and Mid-South and stuff. I wasn't too familiar with Thunderbolt Patterson, especially with these promos. I dug it.
Yeah, this was a really good promo.
What I like is that we've had 3 big promos from 3 of the legends going to be at Slamboree. We've had Thunderbolt Patterson, we've had the Assassin, and then we've had Blackjack Mulligan. 3 distinct deliveries.
Right, they're not rehashing the same thing.
No, and I loved all three of them, and they were all delivered three separate ways.
Yes.
Honestly, from here on, WCW, this is where WCW got saved from being a garbage episode, because Thunderbolt Patterson's promo, and then we go into Flair for the Gold, who, surprisingly, I forgot she was gone. Missy Hyatt comes back.
Yeah, she was being a Karen in this episode.
Where she's like, oh, what was my promo, and this, that, and the other, and I like how Arn makes a good crack at her about being a, promiscuous lady. She goes, yeah, you're not, Arn was great on this, but like this whole section was amazing because she leaves and they bring out the actual guests for the segment, our tag champions, the Hollywood Blondes. Yeah, I like this. I like one thing I noticed how prophetic that, Rick's like, hey, I've known Brian for 5-6 years. You do amazing stuff. Steve, I've only noticed you for a couple months. I've been back. But I see big things for you. And I was like, how prophetic that Ric Flair said that Steve Austin is going on to big things.
Right, knowing what we do about where he'll be when he goes to WWF.
The Austin 316 promo was 3 years away.
That long?
So no, that's short. So he's prophetic that within 3 years we get Austin 316.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got my numbers mixed up.
3 years we get this is where Stone Cold Steve Austin explodes in 3 years. In wrestling, that is not a lot of time.
Right.
But this was just a damn good promo from the tag champions, doing all kinds of old people jokes, but it wasn't goofy old people jokes.
Right, they were being disrespectful, but they were kind of being... It made sense the way they were delivering it.
Yeah, Arn got into it, like Rick's jacket came off, he was ready to throw down, Arn started rolling up his sleeves. This was fantastic.
Absolutely.
So when I say that, you can see, obviously, we're going to feud with, we're going to get these four guys to feud. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well.
You got the Hollywood Blondes, who we've already established are amazing. One of the greatest, the most underrated tag teams, at least in the WCW time frame, who should have been around longer, but I'm pissed off about that, but we'll get that when we get to the end of 93. You got Arn Anderson, you got Ric Flair, and I mean, this was just so good.
If I was rating this on stars, I might have given this would be a 5 out of 5 easily.
Oh, 100%. 4.5 at the worst. And even the Missy Hyatt part, I didn't have a problem with because it was in and out. She was goofy. It was like, oh, hey, Missy Hyatt's still here. She said her things and out. Like, that didn't take it down at all.
No, not at all.
So, and we come back from commercial with the champs who are actually, are now in their ring gear. Another fire promo.
Yeah, like, they're just delivering repeatedly today.
Yeah, the Blondes had to be the MVPs of this episode, and they didn't even do one move.
Agreed.
And then we get into our feature bout of the evening, beautiful Bobby Eaton versus Arn Anderson, which is already my type of match. Mm-hmm. Because you've seen what Arn can do, you've already seen what Bobby can do, so I know this match is going to be good.
Yeah, Arn is built, Bobby's on the quicker side.
Sure, yeah, Bobby's, he was on the quicker side, he had quote-unquote a high flyer, not a high flyer as what you would see today, but he could move like that. Arn's just that brawler we like, and there's a lot of history here, because around 91 or so, there was a considered probably one of the better stables in WCW. It was called the Dangerous Alliance, managed by the Paul E. Future Heyman Dangerously.
Ooh.
This was early Paul Heyman, but he was known as Paul E. Dangerously. Then he had the Zach Morris phone and everything. Mm-hmm. It was him. Medusa was kind of like the eye candy, but she could wrestle, but she was basically the eye candy of the stable. You had Arn Anderson. You had Bobby Eaton. You had Stunning Steve Austin. You had Larry Zbyszko and Ravishing Rick Rude in one damn frickin' stable.
Holy hell, that's a stacked lineup.
Oh, it was so good. And then not on top of that, they were in what's considered, to this day, the greatest War Games match of all time, which I think was Wrestle War 91.
Ooh.
So, okay, think about this. You want to talk about star power. You had that team on one side. On the other side, you had Sting's Squadron. You had Sting, Nikita Koloff, Ricky Steamboat, Barry Windham, and Dustin Rhodes.
Oh my god.
Those two teams went at it, and it's fantastic. I'm going to find that, and I will put that match up on Twitter this week. It's considered, out of all the War Games that have been happening since like the mid-'80s up until, we have War Games again now, the best War Games match ever.
I would watch that just on the names. It wouldn't even have to be good wrestling.
And it was fantastic. That's the thing. It was fantastic.
Wow.
So when you got that here in this match, and here's the thing. They already established that, Arn's got a knee problem, he's got a leg problem. Simple psychology. Bobby knew this because they had history. Bobby worked on his knee. He worked on his leg. This is when I remember when I talked about like the first couple episodes way back when that Dustin and Ricky had those matches that was just simple, basics, clean, but it was amazing.
Right.
This match, simple, basic, clean, amazing.
Absolutely. The storytelling with the knee was really good.
Yeah. And then you'll notice that Arn had a damn good DDT. That was his secondary finisher. He won a lot of matches with that DDT.
Yeah, that was a vicious spot, and Eaton got necked into the ropes right after. That looked painful.
Yeah, and then you want to talk about, what we discussed this last week, what a good finisher is.
Right?
You just saw how good the Spine Buster was because he popped that bad boy out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was a really great finish. The match took 4 minutes and 34 seconds. Exceptionally dense, I would say again.
Oh, yeah. It was good. It told, we got the momentum of Arn going into the world title match with Barry Windham next week. You had Bobby Eaton, who could have a good match with anybody. We established that with Eric Watts a couple weeks ago. We're getting a good glimpse of Bobby Eaton before his match next week, which could be a sleeper hit. We got Bobby Eaton and Chris Benoit versus Too Cold Scorpio and Bagwell, which could be a sleeper match of the night. Like this card, the card for Slamboree is stacked.
I'm really looking forward to covering it.
Yes. But yeah, fantastic match. Spinebuster for the win. And then we get Barry Windham, who comes out to the arena on a motorcycle. Cuts an amazing promo from Barry Windham.
Yeah, he wants to distance himself from being one of the Four Horsemen.
Yeah. Just the promo was just so good. And here's what I liked about the promo. He didn't have to yell.
Right, just normal tone of voice.
Yeah. Where it was, and that's the thing, it's like why I like so many more of these old school promos. Like, I'm an old school wrestling fan. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking new school stuff. I love a lot of the new school. Matter of fact, you and I are going to be at Against All Odds in about a month.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it.
Absolutely. They already announced the main event for it, which is going to be good.
Ooh.
They announced that there's going to be a world title match and it's going to be good. But regardless, and I don't want to sound like the Jim Cornette old man yells at Cloud, back in my day, and everybody wore sheepskin trunks and There's been garbage promos on this show since we've started.
Absolutely.
There was garbage promos this week. What I liked about, what you see so much nowadays, and this is going to be a short tangent, especially since we're closing in on the end of the show, which is a very short episode because, like I said, there was not a lot of wrestling this week. Everybody's screaming and yelling and cussing. They all sound the same. And I want to go back to the Legends part. We discussed this a few minutes ago. You had words from, over the last few weeks, we had words from the Assassin. We've had them from Blackjack Mulligan, and we had them tonight from Thunderbolt Patterson. 3 completely different styles, and every single one of them got their point across.
Right. They weren't cookie cutter promos, I guess would be the word.
Yeah, because you see a lot of that nowadays. It's all the same thing. And this wasn't. And like I said, that's why I like promos where they don't yell, because it's one of those, the guys that don't really yell and scream a lot. Because if I'm a wrestler and I yell and scream every week, it's not crazy. Like, oh, he's yelling again. Oh no. But when you get a guy that doesn't yell, he's always soft spoken. Not say soft spoken, but like Barry Windham, he
deliberate.
He had a deliberate cadence. Everything came across great. So when he does get excited and emotional and yells, it pulls you in that much more.
Right, it's more believable if he's not constantly doing it.
Because Harley Race used to do that. You never really saw Harley Race yell a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Especially there's a promo where they had this match where he, I think it was $10,000 or $15,000. He's like, look, I will pay anybody to break Ric Flair's leg for $10,000 or $15,000. Like, you saw the same promo, like, when Triple H did that, when he had the feud with Goldberg, where he's like, I'm going to pay, so much tens of thousands of dollars of my own money for somebody to take out Goldberg. It was the same thing, but Harley Race had done it with Ric Flair.
Gotcha.
And, it's one of those, you want to get in closer, you want to get... They got you by their words, so when they did yell and scream, you're like, oh, God, this is... If this man who doesn't yell and scream has to yell and scream...
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to yell and scream so much anymore. Because if everybody does it, then it's not... You don't get the point across.
Right.
So, but yeah, overall, up until the Thunderbolt Patterson promo, WCW sucked. But from Thunderbolt Patterson on, it was amazing.
On the whole, I would rate WCW a C, maybe a C plus. If you consider it like two separate instances, the first half is an F, the second half is an A.
Yeah, I would have gone a D minus for the first half from everything pre Thunderbolt Patterson. Everything Thunderbolt Patterson on is a solid A minus. And we only had one 4-minute match that entire second, that last section.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to say it right now. Eaton and Anderson was my match of both shows. Not only was it the match of WCW, Anderson and Eaton was my match of both shows.
Eaton Anderson is definitely my match for WCW, but I think I'm going to stick with the Lumberjack match as my favorite overall.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what I like, is you and I both like different things for different reasons, so we usually don't agree, so which is nice.
Yeah.
All right, that is the wrestling, and we are going into the box office and the billboard for the week. Bach, if you want to go ahead and take the billboard, sir.
Alrighty, we're using the Hot 100 from May 15th, 1993. We don't have any new songs in the top 5, but we do have a couple of movements.
All right, go ahead.
Number 5 is I Have Nothing by Whitney Houston, same position as last week.
Uh-huh.
Number 4 is Informer by Snow, down from 3 last week.
Okay.
Number 3 is Love Is, parenthesis, from Beverly Hills 90210 by Vanessa Williams and Brian McKnight, up from number 4 to number 3 this week. Number 2 is Freak Me by Silk, down from number 1 last week.
Aww.
And we have a new number 1, up from number 2, That's the Way Love Goes by Janet Jackson.
Oh, okay. So some movement, but not a lot of movement.
No, not a lot.
Okay. So, we're going off the week of May 17th to the 13th of 93 for the movies.
Okay.
We have, not only do we have 2 new movies in the top 5, we have a new number 1.
Ooh.
So, number 5 was number 4 last week. Benny and June had $2.5 million this week with a grand total of 15.7 for its 4-week stay on the charts. Down from number 2 at number 4 is Sidekicks with 2.7 million with a grand total of 8.6. Number 3 was our former number 1. Indecent Proposal dropped from number 1 to number 3. It made $6.3 million. However, it still has a grand total of $80 million at the box office in 5 weeks.
Right, that's a very impressive total.
Sure. And this was the 5th week, and it spent the first 4 weeks at number 1.
Right.
Number 2 is our new one for this week. It is Dave. It had Sigourney Weaver and Kevin Kline. And basically what this movie was is the president of the United States goes down for whatever, it was a health reason or something. And they bring in this lookalike, Dave, because it's Kevin Kline plays both roles because he looks exactly like the president. So he's recruited by the Secret Service to play the president while the president, recovers.
That sounds funny.
It's a funny movie. I've yet to see it, but it is a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was weird to me because it had Sigourney Weaver with hair, and I always, even though she only went bald in Alien 3, for some reason, I had this Mandela effect where I thought she was bald for all the Alien movies. So it was weird for me. It was weird to see her with hair.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though, like I said, it was only literally every Alien movie she was in, only the third one her head was shaved. But I always associated her with the other movies with a shaved head.
Gotcha.
So this movie threw me because I was like, wait, she's got hair? Like I said, I was 10. Dave had an opening weekend of $9.9 million. And then at number 1 with $12.9 million, you want to talk about, based on a true story, fictionalized stuff. A lot of the stuff either didn't happen or didn't happen in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon, the Bruce Lee story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this movie actually also had a video game, too.
Oh, didn't know there was a game.
It even, at least it says it's a fictionalized account. So absolutely, basically nothing in this movie happened in real life.
Gotcha.
Or at least not in the way it did. So that is a very truncated Dropkicks and Attractions for this week. Like I said, a lot of short amount of wrestling. So next week, we will be back with Monday Night Raw of May 17th. We will be back with the WCW Saturday Night, which is the go-home of Slamboree. In 2 weeks, we will have Slamboree. And then we will talk about our movies that we rolled on Tubi or Not Tubi. All sorts of fun stuff. You can actually find the podcast at capital D and capital A, Podcast 1. We are all on Twitter. We are also on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Apple, Good Pods, and iHeartRadio. Where can we find you, sir?
I am at Bigboct, Bigboct on most socials. I'm most active on Twitch, Twitter, and I use my old name, BOCT1584, on Reddit.
Okay. I am Xander Invictus everywhere. Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd. So you can basically find us on most social medias on the internet. So once again, thank you everybody for coming to this episode of Dropkicks and Attractions, and we will see you next week.
See you next mission.